2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
Do you hate taxes? Do you wish there was a way that you could just maybe pay a little bit when selling a property? Well, guess what? You are in for a treat today. We have Donalee Ham with Asset Preservation, and she is going to be talking about 1031 exchanges. Welcome to the show, Donalee.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so 1031 exchanges, this is a term people throw out on TikTok, on Instagram. People talk about it in real estate circles, but in the most basic, most simple term, it's not a scary term. It's a good term because you're saving on taxes. You're deferring taxes.
Deferring.
Yep. Asterisk,
right.
Deferring.
The key is always defer. It's not going to go away, right?
Nope, you're not avoiding. You're deferring.
But it's a useful tool. So in the most basic sense, what is a 1031 exchange?
1031 exchange is a way to defer capital gain taxes on the sale of investment property if you exchange into a different or new type of investment property.
Okay, so you sold the property, you want to exchange it for another property. So property A, you're exchanging it for property B, and you're able to defer the taxes on property A.
You got it.
Awesome. And so, but this isn't just for residential property, right?
Nope. A lot of people think it's for billionaires or millionaires, like uber rich people, but it is for anybody that owns any type of real property that they use as an investment property. So, your usual person that owns an investment property like a rental property, or somebody that owns a multi-million-dollar commercial a commercial building.
Sure. So you actually had a great story. So there's a large range about a feed store. You mind sharing the feed story?
Sure. So we had an investor client that owned a feed store in Colorado. They'd owned it for, a long time, maybe 20 years or so, and were kind of busting at the seams, so to speak. They wanted to continue to grow their business, but they didn't have any room to continue to do that. So they found a new location that they wanted to move into, but didn't want to pay the capital gain taxes on what they were selling, which would have been extensive given the amount of time that they had owned that building.
So what are we talking about, like in terms of dollars?
I think it probably would have been north of about $100,000 in capital gain taxes.
So just money off the top straight to the government.
Yep, money off the top straight to the government. So they did a 1031 exchange. They exchanged out of that feed store, out of that property, moved their business to a much larger property. The $100,000 that they would have paid in capital gain taxes, they were able to use that as more of a down payment on the new property. So basically increased their buying power, took on less of a loan, and were able to continue to grow and expand their business.
Awesome. And so you just casually threw out there in Colorado. So what area, what's your geographic servicing area like? Where do you work?
We're a national 1031 exchange company, so we're doing this in all 50 states. And if you are one of those lucky people that own property internationally, we can even handle international exchanges. Interesting.
So they actually have, is it anywhere in the globe, or is it like places like Puerto Rico where you do exchanges?
There are a couple of countries that are considered U.S. property. So you can exchange U.S. property for U.S. property, or international property for international property. So if you own property in Mexico and you want to buy an investment property in Paris, you can do that. So it's global. They can be tricky, but it can be done most of the time. Or you can exchange U.S. property for U.S. property. And that's like Guam, the U.S. Mariana Islands, and I think Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I would guess Puerto Rico.
Right? You'd hope so. I had a question about the that feed store you were talking about. You talked about they got to keep that extra $100,000 towards the down payment and everything towards a new property. And you also said that this is a deferral of taxes. So when ultimately does the government get paid? Can they just keep transferring and getting new property, or how does that process work for some a company like that?
Yeah, so they can continue to exchange over and over. So if they want to, let's say 10 years down the road, they've expanded, they need to expand again, or let's say they just want to get out of the feed store business altogether and they want to diversify their investments further, they can continue to exchange over and over and continue to defer. If at some point they decide they just don't want to be investment property owners anymore and they decide to sell, then they would pay their taxes at that point. If they continue to exchange and then they pass away, that's when the taxes would go away. But studies have been done that 80% of people end up paying their taxes at some point in their life.
They eventually cash out.
They do eventually cash out. So.
Okay, and there's no interest. It's not like there's a loan with the government. It's just sitting there, and the taxes have been deferred.
Yep, there's no interest. There's no loan with the government. You're just putting off payment of the taxes. So when you purchase a property, that is the basis in the property. Instead of getting a new, much higher basis in the new property, that low basis in the property that you sold is carrying over into the new property. And so that's how that capital gain is being deferred. So you're just carrying over a low basis into the next property.
So the longer somebody has a 1031, when you factor in inflation and the fact that there's no interest or payment on this, arguably the less their tax bill is really going down, because 10 grand 30 years ago is a way different 10 grand than $10,000 today. So if they did a 1031 a while ago, they may still, that those taxes were deferred, but really in today's dollars, it's much smaller. Is that correct?
The tax bill would not go down.
Yeah.
It's going, their tax bill is invariably going to get higher.
Okay.
Because they're putting off paying their taxes.
Okay.
So, if you have a $100,000 taxable gain today, and you put off paying that for 10 years, and then you have gain on top of that new property, let's say there's, another $20,000 gain on that new property, you sell that, you're going to have a $120,000 gain that you're going to pay when you sell that new property. So again, it's not avoidance. You're not reducing your tax liability. You're just putting off payment of that tax liability.
Yeah, totally get it. But I'm probably doing a horrible job of explaining it. But the longer you wait to pay the taxes, as long as inflation continues, the value of that tax burden is technically, like, the number's not changing, but the value's changing.
Yeah, time value money.
Yeah, exactly.
So the $120,000 that they owe in 2024 is going to be drastic. I mean, it'll be the same 120,000, but in 2020 or 2034, it's like, oh, well, that's about the cost of a car now.
Yeah, that's the Honda Civic.
There we
True,
go.
but the value of that property is also going to go up significantly as well. So being
Okay.
able to use that $100,000 that you would have otherwise paid the government to purchase that investment property, that's going to give you tax cash flow over that period of time also, that's going to create a great deal of value for you, is going to probably be more beneficial than paying your taxes now.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, but this isn't just for feed stores. You said it's for all types of real property. Can you give us some other examples of, like, things that you commonly run into that people use 1031s for?
Yeah, so commonly we see a lot of residential properties. So you have a rental single family, let's look at a single family residence. Those are really popular right now. People are buying up single family residences to rent them out. So that's a big chunk of business for us. But we also see a lot of people selling a single family residence that they've been renting out for a lot of years and wanting to diversify into, maybe they want to buy multiple single family residences, or they want to get into multifamily residence. That's a really great way of increasing cash flow. Or maybe they want to get into more passive investments, like UPREITs or REITs or Delaware statutory trusts. Maybe they want to.
So you can roll into that. You can roll into a Delaware statutory trust.
Yep, those qualify as real property. So.
Now there are some requirements. I know we don't want to get too much into the weeds. We just want them to just call you so you can do all the heavy lifting for them. But there are some basic rules surrounding a 1031. Do you mind just hitting the bullet points?
Sure. So the first bullet point is that you have to be selling real property that you held for investment. So it can't be anything that you live in. It can't be anything that you're flipping or that you're holding just for the purpose of reselling.
And on that question, so like if I have a home and like I get married, whatever I have, and I move in with my future wife, and now my house is
Do you have
available.
plans? Are we talking like hypothetical or just...
Theoretically, at some point. But so I move into her house, and now the house that I own is empty. What is there something that I have to do to turn that into an investment property, or is it just the fact that I'm renting it out to someone? Does that qualify as a rental or an investment property?
Yeah, just rent it out.
Okay.
For like 1 month, and it's considered an investment?
I'd season it for a year or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So rent it out for a year or two. Check, most people would say 2 years is a good amount of time to rent it out. You have to have the exchange open prior to selling or closing escrow on the sale. If you don't, then you have a taxable event. So,
or is there like we're getting in the weeds here, but reverse 1031, isn't that a thing too?
You can do a reverse, which is where you would need to purchase the property that you're going to buy before you can sell what you already own.
Yeah.
So those are more complicated exchanges, but
Yeah.
very, very valuable tools if you find yourself in that situation.
I knew a guy who, a client who bought a property for his daughter. And then he realized, oh my goodness, like I have a bit of a tax issue here, because he cashed out some money from other accounts to buy that property cash for his daughter. And so then he was trying to do the reverse 1031 on another property, and that's how I met him. And I'd never heard of the reverse 1031, but it seems like in instances like that, it could really save your bacon if you had a taxable event. You're like, wait, I don't want to pay all this in taxes. Let's undo this a little bit.
Yeah, they're very valuable tools, especially in markets like today, where it's the buyer is just really struggling to get the property, that you have to be fast on your feet. You're struggling with multiple offers, and you may be in a position where you've got to buy well in advance of when you can sell, or your sale is gonna take longer to go than your buy.
And that's a good point too, because then maybe we'll get into this in the next segment, but then you don't have to worry about the time constraints. You've already identified the property, you've bought it, and then you're saying just do a reverse. In today's market, that's what people are preferring to do.
We're seeing an increase in the number of reverse exchanges.
Okay.
Yeah, you still have some time constraints, but you've 180 days to sell the property that you're selling. So
that's tons of time.
It's tons of time. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back right after this, and when we come back with Donalee Ham with asset preservation. By the way, how can they get a hold of you, Donalee?
You can call us at 1-800-282-1031. We are always in the office ready to take anybody's questions.
I like that
Easy.
number, 1031 for a 1031 exchange.
That's perfect. 1-800
282-1031.
1031. Awesome. We'll be back in just a moment.
So how would you like an offer on your home today? So how would you like an all-cash offer on your home today, no matter what kind of condition it's in? It's not too good to be true. Don't worry about the repairs. Reach out to Johnny Jennings and the Made for More Living team. You can trust him. There's a reason why they have so many 5-star Google reviews. So don't worry about the repairs, whether you don't have the money or the time. Johnny Jennings will help you out. He'll give you an all-cash offer, no matter what kind of condition your home is in. But you got to do it today. Reach out or just Google Johnny Jennings, Made for More Living.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
We are back with Donalee Ham with asset preservation, and we are talking about the super exciting topic of 1031 exchanges. It may not be that exciting, but man, when it comes to saving money, that gets me excited.
Well, it comes to not having to pay, or at least deferring taxes.
I know.
That is also something that's really exciting.
I know Donalee's always like, defer.
Defer, yes.
It does not wipe it out.
I started to say not pay, and she looked at me. She's like, no, defer. It's always a defer.
Well, you're not paying them right now.
So it feels like you're not paying taxes.
Pay them later.
Exactly.
You feel like you're paying. You're not paying them now. So it feels like you're not paying them.
So, and there's actually ways. I think you mentioned to reduce it, not necessarily reduce it, but they never go away, the taxes as well. The whole wall analogy.
Yeah. So we've had several clients over the years who will ask us, hey, what if I want to eventually move into this property and make this my primary residence? Can I do that? And the answer is always sure. I had this one client call and say, hey, I'm getting close to retirement age. What we'd really like to do is purchase our forever home and rent it out for a couple of years. And then when we're actually really ready to retire and call it quits and live the good retirement life, move into that property.
That's smart.
Totally. Very smart investment, very smart estate planning plan. And I said, yeah, you can absolutely do that. So they bought it, they rented it out for a couple of years, and then they moved into it. And the way that can, if they decided to sell it later down the road, can reduce their tax liability is, let's say they owned it for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And they lived in it for 8, they rented it for 2 years, they lived in it for 8 years. They can take, if they were still married, they could take that Section 121 primary residence capital gain exclusion on 80% of the gain on that property.
Wow.
So they're going to pay 20% because for 20% of the time they lived there, it qualified as an investment property. But for 80% of the time they lived there, it qualified as their primary residence. So
Got it.
The longer they live there, more gain they can exclude. But that's one way that you could reduce the capital gain on an investment property.
And if you're listening to this and you think, okay, great, maybe if I stay in it long enough, it'll go down to zero. It's that classic analogy of if you walk halfway to a wall and then you walk halfway and then you walk halfway and then you walk halfway, like you'll never technically be touching the wall. So the longer you're in the home, you're technically reducing that tax burden, but you'll never completely eliminate it. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, at some point it may feel like you're paying $0, but it's still going to be something.
Okay. And so it seems like this is a very complicated process. We started talking a little bit about the timelines. Do you mind just giving us a quick, brief overview of the process?
Yeah. So you open your exchange once you get into escrow on the property that you're selling.
Okay.
The sale closes. That day starts your 1031 exchange. You have 180 days from that point to complete your exchange and close and take title to the property that you're going to exchange into. Mm-hmm. And you have to identify that property within the first 45 days of that 180 days. So
wow.
Total of 180 days, you have 45 days to identify what you're going to purchase.
Okay. That seems a little fast.
It is. Yeah, it can be. That's the tight timeline that people have a problem with. Mm-hmm. And people very commonly call and complain to us about it, and we have to tell them that the IRS is not flexible with these timelines. They're not extended unless there's a federal disaster, and they do not care about market conditions.
Gosh, yeah. I've seen this. I have this shirt at home. It says defund the IRS. So it's like, hey, don't shoot the messenger. It's the IRS that's causing this problem.
Right. The IRS can be so difficult. I mean, because you're talking about getting closer and closer to the wall, and it was like the only two things in life, death and taxes.
Yep.
If not one, the other for sure.
Job security for the government.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's a simple process. You just have to be in escrow, identify the next property in 45 days, and then they give you, whatever the math is, a total of 180 days to close on the next property. But if somebody's never done this before and they don't know what they're doing, do you often run into people who are maybe given bad advice or maybe have worked with a different company that has not helped them, and you have to kind of pick up the pieces?
Yeah, I talk to people every day that are calling in either because they have never done a 1031 exchange.
Wait, how do they
before.
call in? What's that phone number again?
1-800-282-1031.
All right, you got it.
Call us all day long. We'll answer the phone.
Okay.
So I talk to people all day long that either have never done a 1031 exchange, so they're calling with no information, no idea what's going on, or they're on their second or third or fourth call, and they're just trying to get some answers about what the rules are. They've done some research on the internet. Maybe they've called a couple of other companies, but they're just not really sure on what the rules are. And I'll spend 15, 20, 30 minutes talking with them, just answering all of their questions, going over the process from step 1 through step 15, just whatever it takes to get them to the point where they feel comfortable with how to get from the property that they're selling to the property that they're purchasing.
That's very different from my understanding about how other asset, management companies work. Normally you start with like the lower person on the totem pole, like the person receiving the calls, and you got to work your way up. Press 1 for this, transfer you to this, and you're in this like call tree. But it seems like they're starting at the top with your company.
Yes, they are. So when they call the 800-282-1031 number, they're still going to get an auto attendant. They're going to press 2, which is to get questions answered or to open a new exchange. That option is going to take them to me. I'm Asset Preservation's Chief Operating Officer. It's going to get them to Javier Vandestieg, our president, Bob Shart, our vice president, Aaron Riley, counsel. So it's going to get them to the top people in our organization, because we want to make sure that our clients are getting the best and the best information at the very beginning of their transaction. And then once they open an exchange with us, they're getting a dedicated exchange counselor for the duration of their exchange. They're going to work with an Anna Marty or Christina Bean or Chris Neese or Ryan Thomas, and they're going to become their person. Mm-hmm. They're going to develop a relationship with them. Anna is going to know everything about their exchange and their transactions from start to finish, and they're going to have their direct phone number, their email, and they're going to get a very one-on-one personal service from that like exchange counselor.
White glove concierge type of a service.
That's what we're going for.
Rather than pass it around and it's an assembly line of people and you don't know who to talk to about what, you have that dedicated, what's the term you used?
Exchange counselor.
That dedicated exchange counselor.
Yep.
That's awesome. And so if somebody's thinking about doing a 1031, what are some common pitfalls or some advice that you would give to somebody who's looking to maybe perform one of these?
Probably the first bit of advice that I would give is call early before you are thinking about selling your property. You want to make sure that you know the rules before you start going into it, so that you don't inadvertently make a mistake like close on your property before you get your exchange open. That's a big one. I take calls like that a couple times a week where people say, I just closed. Can I do a 1031 exchange? The answer is no.
There's
Sorry,
no way around that.
It's too late. Nope. Once
my
you've
gosh.
closed, you've created that taxable event, and there's no way to undo that. Short of undoing the closing, which in my 20 years with asset preservation, I've seen that happen maybe twice.
Twice. Out of how many transactions would you say?
We do about 10,000 transactions a year.
Wow. So you're saying if you're even thinking about doing a 1031 exchange before you even start the process of selling, call and start and know what you need to do so you don't get stuck paying a tax bill.
Absolutely.
What does the call cost? Like, do they have to pay a retainer fee to speak with you?
No,
or
it's free consultation.
Free consultation, get the information, and then move forward.
Absolutely.
Love it. And so that's the number one thing. What's something else that people run into besides reaching out to you up front?
I think probably the second thing that people are running into, especially now, is it's hard to find replacement properties. So, one thing we're telling people is they think they have to wait to start looking until after their exchange starts. They don't. They can start looking before they list their property, as soon as their property goes into contract at some point. To do the simple delayed exchange where you sell first, buy second, you can go into contract at any point on both properties. You just want to make sure that the sale of the closing of the sale happens first, and then the closing of the purchase happens second.
How close does that have to be? Could it be like you record in the morning on the sale and record in the afternoon on the purchase?
Yeah, it could be same day. So we have, I had a client who had thought he had his relinquished property, which is the property that he's selling, and the replacement property. He thought that he had those a week apart, and the relinquished property closing got delayed almost a week.
Whoa.
And he was freaking out a bit, understandably, because all of a sudden he thought he was either going to have to switch into a reverse exchange or that it wasn't going to work out at all, because he was concerned about whether or not he was going to be able to come up with funds to purchase the replacement property if he had to do the reverse exchange. And I explained to him, hey, if you can get these to close on the same day, we can make that happen.
Nice.
So, even same day closings, that's doable.
So that's almost what I would not necessarily same day, but that's kind of what I would encourage clients to do is, hey, let's sell this property, let's find this next property, and not do a concurrent close, but let's make this as seamless as possible. Because, man, it just seems so stressful. Like, if you have 45 days, that is, now you feel pressured into making a bad decision potentially on that replacement property.
Yeah, I think people that have an idea of the direction that they're going to go, kind of going into the whole thing, feel less stressed out than when they go into it having no idea what they're doing.
So see step one, right? Call Donalee.
Yeah. But the other way to look at it is, even if you have no idea what you're doing, not calling and choosing not to set up an exchange gives you no option to exchange. So, our fee is $1,250, and if you have no idea what you're doing before you sell your relinquished property, you pay $1,250 to give yourself the option to exchange. But if you don't set up the exchange, let's say on day 30 you find the perfect property, you go into contract immediately on it, but you didn't set up your exchange before you sold your property. So now you have no option to exchange. You can't do it.
Interesting. So that $1,250, is that due regardless of whether or not the property, like when does somebody pay the $1,250?
When their sale closes. So
let's say they decide, hey, I'm not even going to do the 1031. The sale, can they back out, or are they still locked into that $1,250? It's a non-refundable fee. Okay, because you've performed the services. They just decided not to move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
But how much money are they? Do you happen to know off the top of your head the average amount of money they're deferring by doing a 1031, by paying that small $1,250 fee? I mean, that's less than a trust. That's very nominal.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely nominal fee for what they're going to not pay in taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our clients are deferring tens of thousands of dollars in taxes.
Yep.
So
definitely the 10x rule on that. You're getting more than 10x return on your money there.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Donalee. One last time, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Give us a call, 800-282-1031.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Anytime.
Awesome.
There's a reason why they have so many 5-star Google reviews, why they are number one in all of Sacramento. It's because they get the most money for their clients in the shortest amount of time. So if you're looking to sell your home, we can't recommend anyone better than Johnny Jennings and the Made for More real estate team. So all you got to do, if you're interested in selling your home, you just want a quick meeting with Johnny to see what he can do for your family, Google Johnny Jennings, the Made for More living team.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Mike, that was a great segment with Donalee Ham with asset preservation, wasn't it?
Yeah, learning so much about 1031. I see it on TikTok or whatever else all the time. You're like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, it makes you sound like a doctor, so professional.
Right.
1031 exchange, but I mean, it blew me away that you can use the 1031 for other properties. I thought it had to be a single family home for a single family home or a multifamily home for but she talked about exchanging a feed store for a multifamily property. Like, anyways, if you didn't get a chance to hear it, go back and listen to Donalee's segment. But what we're going to talk about now is buying a house. You mentioned you have a friend or a family member who's considering buying a home.
Yeah, they're looking to upgrade to get a little bit more space, which is great for them. But it's been over.
And they're staying in California.
They are staying in California,
that's a rarity.
which is crazy. I know.
Yeah.
But what is it? It was over 13 years ago that I bought my house, and it was kind of like a simple. I just bought it from grandma and grandpa, so it didn't even go on the market or anything. But he's looking into doing all this stuff, but he's also looking to buy a $100,000 truck, and he's looking to do all this other stuff. And so I'm just thinking to myself, like, I'm not an expert. I know someone who is. I know Johnny, but what are the things, like, if you're looking to get into buying a home, that you should be keeping in mind, so that way you look good with lenders and everything else?
Well, yeah. So the first step is, depending on your financial situation, some people can do it, but I would speak with a real estate agent first.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't cost anything. Talk to the real estate agent, and but most people, that's where they get hung up on. They're like, well, yeah, I need to talk to a real estate agent, but how do I know what real estate agent to talk to?
Yes.
If I'm in the Trader Joe's parking lot, I can throw a rock and hit 5 of them. So how do I know which of those 5 is the realtor to talk to?
Yeah.
And so what we recommend is you go ahead, you can interview multiple ones, but essentially what you're looking for is you're looking for somebody who has a strong track record of success. How do you know their track record of success? You can go on homes.com. Homes.com will tell you how many homes those people are selling approximately. It's not perfect,
Okay.
but it's a good approximation. And just look up their reviews. If they have Zillow, most agents should have Google reviews. If they have Yelp reviews, take that with a grain of salt because Yelp's kind of a
Yeah, it just depends. Someone can get mad at you and start doing, and I've seen that before.
Well, Yelp just they'll take your reviews down if you're not paying them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if you're not actively marketing with Yelp, they will remove your reviews.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah. So the authenticity of the platform is a little questionable. So just keep that in mind with Yelp. But so how many homes have they sold or helped people buy recently?
Okay.
Because homes will actually break it down between purchases and sales. And then what do people have to say after working with them? And then that will kind of help you weed through the good agents and the bad agents. What blew me away is I just heard the stat the other day. Fewer than 98% of agents are selling 1.5 homes a month or less.
Wow.
1.5. That's 98. That's the national average. And so there's a 98% chance when you throw that rock and hit those realtors that there's a 98% chance that they're selling less than 2 homes a month. And if they're selling less than 2 homes a month, how are they a market expert?
Correct.
Like, do you want the surgeon who does a surgery once a month or once every quarter, or do you want the surgeon who's doing 10, 15, 20 surgeries a week?
Yeah. Well, and something that you said too, because you talked about maybe like interviewing different real estate agents. Like, what are some like maybe red flags or something? It's like, oh, so when I'm talking to them, they said X, Y, and Z, or they did X, Y, and Z. That's like, oh, run away, run to the hills, hair on fire. Like, don't get do that.
Basically, if you're asking questions and they don't know the answers.
Okay.
So if you're like, hey, what would be the next step? Hey, what's the market doing? What's the average sales price to list price in this community that I'm looking at? Things like that. If they're not able to, like, what's your average sales? If you're looking to sell a home, what's your average sales price to list price? How's that compare to the industry average? If they don't know simple answers to those common metrics in their business, then one, they're either not paying attention to it, which they may lack some attention to detail, or two, the numbers aren't there for them to even track.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a good real estate agent, you can always and you don't live local in the area, because obviously I'm going to point everybody to the Made for More team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're moving out of state, we know great agents in every county. We network with these groups, and so we're picking the top 1% of agents to network with. And so if you're looking to move out of state, we can always interview the agent on your behalf or give you a referral to someone that we know is good. Because good doctors know other good doctors.
Yeah.
Good mechanics know good mechanics. So
that makes sense, because I was just recently visiting some friends in Nashville, and in their neighborhood there was a home that had an open house, and my friend Lauren was like, I have to go see it, but the realtor lives in my neighborhood and she knows that I'm not interested in buying. So they took me, and it's like, this is our friend Mike from California,
a token Californian.
Exactly, insinuating I'm about to buy a house, and like she was just like, oh yeah, and telling me about stuff, and then she said, oh, I know some great places. My daughter just bought a house in this neighborhood. And I was like, oh, well, who is the builder, and what were this? Oh, I know this, and I'll have to look. So those kinds of things are like, because even in that moment, I was like, you know what? Even if I was moving to Tennessee, which I'm not, I was like, I don't think that I'd want to trust you, because you obviously don't seem to know anything about the neighborhood or what's going on. You're just use me, and that. So those kinds of things seem to be what you could look out for then.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. If you're asking questions, like how you were asking questions, she seemed unsure. Then that's a red flag. Sometimes people are nervous, depending or at an open house type of a setting, depending on how busy the open house is. Mm-hmm. She may be trying to make sure the silverware is not walking away while talking to you, and she might be a little distracted. But yeah, definitely if they don't come out the gate with certainty and a track record of success, and just really have the experience to convey, hey, this is how I help my clients win. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people, even in today's market, they're running into multiple offer situations. And so how can you win in that scenario and not overpay for the home? Because a lot of inexperienced agents will just have you throw more money at it, make the offer a higher purchase price. But a seasoned agent will be like, There's things that they'll do. So they'll know to contact the listing agent. They'll know to ask the listing agent what's important to the seller. They'll know how to massage the terms. They'll know to maybe offer a rent back that might be invaluable to the seller in their search situation. And so now you came in at a lower overall purchase price, but you're offering them a rent back for 30, 60 days. And that has more value. It may not have more dollar value, but it has more value to that seller. And so just knowing how to navigate those situations and what questions to ask, the agent is where your buyer's agent, the listing agent is where your buyer's agent who's representing you purchasing that home really shines.
Okay.
So as far as the situation that you talked about with the truck and the home and the order of that, my recommendation, just without knowing anything, my first recommendation, talk to a realtor. That realtor will then know a fantastic lender. They'll put them in contact with the lender, and the lender can look at their financial history and the situation and give them a suggestion moving forward. You say $100,000 truck, that's pretty much not like a run-of-the-mill truck, but it doesn't sound like it's a custom, 1972 thing that's only a rare, never going to pop up again. Right. So it's not like he's losing any opportunity here by taking, and it takes 5 minutes to talk to the realtor, 5 minutes to talk to the LO, to the loan officer, and then depending on how long it takes you to get your docs in, you can get pre-approved in 24, 48 hours.
Wow!
So it's not like this long, drawn-out, painful month-long process to get some good information to make the right decision for you and your family. But
so if you get pre-approved and I assume that's obviously something you can use to go purchase a home and go through and submit things. But is there anything that you can do that can sort of mess up your pre-approval that you're maybe not expecting? It's like, oh, well, I was pre-approved for $500,000 and then I went and did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, not anymore. Yeah. So the main things that we tell our clients not to do is don't buy jewelry, furniture, like TVs, anything. Don't just defer any big purchases, cars, trucks. Right. Just defer any big purchases. And because you don't want to mess up what's called your DTI, your debt to income ratio. Okay. So if you financed a new furniture set from Ashley, then all of a sudden you now have that monthly payment coming out. That's going to show up on your debt to income, and that may mess up how much you can qualify for. And if you're already in escrow and now you can no longer qualify for the home that you're in escrow for, that's a painful place to be. Oh man, because you're so close. It's like I almost got the keys and now I can't get the keys. I don't know how he did it, but the most extreme example I can think of is there was this guy buying this house with another realtor. He's a dear friend, and they were using JJ Mack with American Pacific Mortgage to do the loan. And one of the last steps the lender does is they verify employer. It's the employment verification. Oh, okay. And this dude had quit his job. No. Like the day or day before, everything was supposed to close. I got a new house. I don't need this job. Yeah. So my wife can carry me, and it's like maybe, but that's not what the loan was, designed around. And so I don't know how he got it done, but JJ was able to get it closed and recorded, and that the buyer ended up getting the home. But that's another thing you don't want to do. You don't want to quit your job. It's like, blow this popsicle stand. I'm done. I've had enough. Like, done. 2 more days and get it done afterwards. Exactly. So you don't want to make any large purchases. You don't want to quit your job. Anything that's going to alter your financial situation, just wait. And escrows these days are typically like faster than, these aren't your grandpa's escrows. Right? People are used to like 30-day, kind of like what you hear historically. Like we're seeing stuff on average. This is not fast. This is average 21 days. 21 days? Yeah, so 3 weeks. So just wait 3 weeks. Wait 3 weeks to buy the furniture. Wait 3 weeks to get the truck. But it's going to be gone, Johnny. You don't understand. It's on sale today. Okay. Well, then buy it. Buy it. You can either have the house or you can have the furniture. Pick one. Yeah, get the furniture, put it out in your backyard because it won't fit in your little apartment or wherever it is. I know. You're going to have to get a storage facility. And then one day, when you can buy the house. Yep. So does that kind of help, like if you're looking to buy a home? Yeah, the things that you want to be looking out for, because those seem like silly mistakes that I'm not going to think of. I'm gonna because I remember when I was going through the process of buying my house, I was at IKEA because I was 24 at the time, so I'm like I cheap furniture, but I was like I'm going to get this for the house and I'm going to do this, and I'm thankful that I did not buy anything before and mess all that up. Yeah, and a good agent will also advise you, hey, ahead of time. Don't make any changes. A lot of people will be buying rings, because they're getting married and they're buying the house together, and so they're going to, do that. And so, anyway, just defer any big things. But if people are listening, the biggest thing that I would say that is going to make or break a pleasant real estate transaction is honestly the real estate agent. Yeah. There's a lot of talk right now about, hey, are buyer agents going away? And
that's an absolute like false. That is not at all even close to the realm of possibility of what's going to happen, because a good agent can negotiate for you. They know what's normal in the market. They know to help you win. They have good vendors. They know good lenders. They know good escrow companies, reputable, title and escrow people. Like there's just so much value that an agent brings to the process that as long as you have a good agent and you trust that agent, because you may have the best agent in the world, but if you don't listen to them, then what good are they? It's like having a physical trainer. Yeah, right. I know I need to work out, but
Yeah.
So
well, it makes sense too, because like you said, it's the contacts too, because it seems like real estate. I mean, I'm an outsider, but it seems like real estate is a network who kind of thing. It's like, oh, this issue, I know this person that can help you, because you even helped me with some insurance stuff with my house. I was trying to find flood insurance. You're like, I know not one guy, I know 3 guys, and you sent all that information. We were able to get it worked out. So that seems like really important to have someone who's active and doing everything when you're looking for a real estate agent, like your contacts, and like you said, having that professionalism of like, don't worry, I know this sounds scary, but I do this all the time.
Yeah, this is my day job. So I think we just ran the numbers, and on average, we're selling a home every 3 days.
Wow.
So most people, or helping somebody buy or sell a home, right? Yeah. So most people, they do this process every 10 days, or excuse me, every 7 to 10 years.
Yes.
And a lot has changed, like the how the marketing works. The real estate landscape has changed in 10 years. And so maybe what you were even accustomed, like there's about, I'm not going to venture to guess, but there's dozens of pages of forms that are being updated right now. And so for a real estate agent, we're going to now have to retrain and relearn these new forms, or these forms that are being updated. And so and the last time there was an update was a couple of years ago, and then a couple of years before that. And so if you haven't done this in 10 years, like the process has changed, the forms have changed, your contacts have changed, your expectations are maybe a little out of alignment with what's happening in today's market. And so just, if somebody's selling a house, like again, I'll go back to, do you want the 98% who's selling a home every 1.5 months, 2 months?
Right.
Or do you want somebody who's like knocking them down multiple homes a week, that has the experience and the context to get you not only the best deal, but get you across the finish line?
Well, and it seems like the person obviously selling more often is going to have the resources to get you the most. If you're selling the most for your home, or if you're buying, get you the best for your price.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to reach out to us, you can always just Google "Made for More Realty," or just type in the search bar madeformorerealty.com. We'll be back after a short break.
So how would you like an offer on your home today? So how would you like an all-cash offer on your home today, no matter what kind of condition it's in? It's not too good to be true. Don't worry about the repairs. Reach out to Johnny Jennings and the Made for More Living team. You can trust him. There's a reason why they have so many 5-star Google reviews. So don't worry about the repairs, whether you don't have the money or the time. Johnny Jennings will help you out. He'll give you an all-cash offer, no matter what kind of condition your home is in. But you got to do it today. Reach out or just Google Johnny Jennings, Made for More Living.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So I'm listening to a book right now, listening Audible.
Okay.
Do you Audible at all?
Or? Yes, I do. I love getting to listen to books, because then I can multitask, but then I have to go back and it's like, what did they say in that chapter?
Yes. What type of books?
I like to listen to a lot of like fiction sort of books, just to sort of escape a little bit from everything that's going on in the world.
It's like TV, but you're reading.
Exactly. Listening. I like to listen.
Or listening.
My whole job is listening, so I might as well listen to books too.
That makes sense. Well, I was reading this book, or listening to this book, Doors Open When You Knock, and it's by a guy named Stephen Ross. Stephen came and spoke at our realtor huddle that we do every single week up in Roseville.
Okay.
For the local agents up there, or anybody that wants to come. Anybody's welcome. And it's always a lot of fun. There's typically 40 to 50 people in there, and we typically have fantastic speakers. This week was Stephen Ross.
Are there donuts and coffee?
There's food. The vendors will bring the food.
There we go.
Last week, who was it? Jen Finley with Good Life Inspections.
Okay.
She brought like this most delicious, like there was fancy cheeses and meats and pastries, and like I honestly think people came just for the food. But
I would be there just for the food.
But if they came for the food, they also got to listen to Stephen Ross. And what his claim to fame is he has knocked on over 125,000 doors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like the whole city of Roseville just
Yeah.
knocked on their door.
So he's not local. He started in Southern California, and he lives either in Denver or somewhere in Colorado.
Okay.
And but between his career, he's knocked over 125,000 doors.
Wow.
And he was just sharing his experiences and things that he's learned during that process. And in the book, Doors Open When You Knock, he wrote it. He also reads it on Audible, so it's cool to kind of hear his voice.
I love when
Yeah.
authors do that.
Me too. And so when I'm listening to Stephen Ross read his book, he had this quote, and it just snapped me. I was like, whoa, what? And he said, so many real estate agents leave the industry or quit the industry, but they don't leave the industry. So he said, so many agents quit the industry, but they don't leave the industry. And what he meant by that was there's a lot of people who have real estate licenses, but are not actively practicing. They may, do the onesie twosie for friends or family, it may be their side hustle. Like, hey, if I sell one house a year, that'll pay for a vacation.
Oh, okay, I get it. So it's like this isn't my main gig. I took the test. I have my license. I can do it, but I'm not doing this on a regular basis.
I have a state job. I'm a firefighter. I have something else.
Wow.
Right.
That seems like intimidating to some degree, because I mean, hopefully, if you're trying to find a real estate agent or work with someone, it's like, I think I want someone who has a little bit more experience to know what's going on to walk me down that road.
You'd think, but a lot of people believe that we're all the same. They think, real estate agent A is the same as real estate agent B and C and so on. And I was actually on a phone call the other day. A person called in. They Googled us. They saw all of our 5-star reviews on Google. So she just typed in like "made for more realty," and she saw all these reviews. And so she said, "I want to talk to these people." So she called in. I answered the phone, and she mentioned that she was interviewing real estate agents. And I said, "Okay, great. What is it you're looking for?" She's like, "I want to net the most money on the sale of my home, so I want to pay the least amount of commissions." I said, "Okay." That doesn't always go hand. Are you aware that doesn't always go hand in hand?
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, I don't understand. You guys are all the same." And I said, "Sometimes, but let me ask you this: have you interviewed any agents so far to sell your home?" And she said, "Yeah, I've interviewed one." I said, "Great. So with that one agent, did they do any radio advertising for you?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, okay. That's odd. We do that."
Yeah.
Do they have 5 full-time employees that are like proactively calling through the community and calling a database of over 15,000 people, to find you a buyer rather than just passively wait for their phone to ring? And she's like, no, they don't do that. Oh, okay, great. Well, then they must have a Bay Area buyer marketing plan where they, through geotargeting or geofencing and retargeting, reach out to people in the Bay who are looking to move to your community. They at least mentioned that, didn't they? And she's like, no, they didn't. I said, okay, well, sounds like we need to meet in person and go over a plan, because not all agents are made the same.
No, they don't have the skills. They aren't thinking about that, because it's like, if you're a one-man shop, if you're just Joe Blow who's a state worker and is like, oh, I do this on the side, you're not going to have the time and the resources to do all the stuff that you guys are doing at Made for More.
Exactly. And so you had a good point there, Mike, is if you are a solo agent, like, you have to make sure that the sign gets installed. You have to make sure that the photos are taken. You have to manage the escrow. You have to return phone calls from showings. You have to negotiate. And then while you're doing all this, if this is your living, if this is your livelihood, you have to be looking for other people to help buy or sell a house, so that way you can, get paid, 30, 60, 90 days from now.
Yeah.
That one client is not going to have your full undivided attention. And so when you have all these plates spinning, it's really hard to do a good job for your clients if you are the solo agent. And so that's why, Val and I realized a long time ago, and Tom realized even before us, Tom Daves realized, hey, it takes a village to see this transaction through. I mean, think about something as simple as a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. Like, is the chiropractor running the ads? Is the chiropractor greeting you when you walk in? Is he then walking you back to the room,
right,
and then doing like the little vital checkup, the initial checkup, and then is he the one then adjusting you, and then is he the one walking you back out and rescheduling?
Just swipe your card and it's like
swipe out your card and do the follow up,
right?
Schedule your next appointment. No, he is there. He has a team. Even something as simple as a chiropractor has a team.
Yeah.
And so in a real estate process, this is something that takes 30, 45 days, 90 days from the moment you say, hey, let's start, to the moment you're getting, like, you're moving into the home, or you're getting that cash from the sale. Like, it's a long tail sale. And so there's hundreds and hundreds of pages that need to be filled out. There's all these different possible breaking points. And so if you're relying on that solo agent to walk you through all of that, that is a lot on one agent. And I tell you, even if they're great at their job, even if they have a transaction coordinator, their attention is split because we're just talking about work.
Right.
We're not talking about their goals in life, like what are their health goals? What are their wealth goals? What are their family goals? Like, are they spending time with their kids? And so, or their spouses, or do they not have a spouse, but they're on the hunt for a spouse?
Right.
That takes time.
I got to go out and date if I'm...
Yeah. Date the rate.
Right.
And so, anyways, all that to say, it is really important to have a team and have people that are around you as a client, and so you want that agent to have that team built in for you.
Well, and like you were saying, there's a bunch of documents and papers and all that stuff that's being updated and changed. And if you're a one-stop shop kind of person all by yourself, it's like, are you going to be able to keep up on all of those changes all the time that are happening? Because I mean, that's a lot to keep up on if you don't have anyone to help support you.
Yep, it's a lot, but the good news is at Made for More, we have the team.
Yep,
we have over 15 staff members and 30 agents to help you. So. From all different backgrounds. They speak a ton of different languages, so we probably have something that can help you. Just go to madeformorerealty.com to learn more. And I'll leave. We'll end the show on this note. 48% of agents, the agent population, because we talked about agents who have quit but not left the industry,
still have their license.
Yeah, 48% of agents did not sell a home in 2023.
Almost half.
Almost 1 in 2 agents did not sell a single home in 2023.
Wow.
So, if you're at a function and there's 4 realtors there, odds are 2 of them did not sell a house, not for 12 months in the entire year of 2023.
Yeah,
and so, and then so just keep that in mind that not all agents are created equal. So just do your research, do your diligence, interview them, and make sure that if you are beginning this process, that you're going with somebody you can trust. Because if you don't trust them, then you're in for a world of hurt.
Right, especially on one of the biggest investment of your life, like
Correct.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. You need to make sure you trust the guys.
Yep. So anyways, we'll leave on that note. But if you'd like to learn more about working with the Made for More team and why we are the most Google reviewed team in the Sacramento region, just hop on madeformorerealty.com or Google madeformorerealty.com. Thanks, Meg.